You see, this is the thing. I feel like strategy wise, Mercedes just fluke it. I don't actually
Yeah.
think they're good. I think they
Oof.
most of the time actually just fluke it, and it always just seems to work out for them. Not always, most of the time seems to work out for them.
I would have said Alonso just for that beautiful, beautiful defending. Like, dude made his ass fat. Dude was like, my ass is wide and Lewis is not getting past.
Yeah.
Um, Hi guys, welcome back to On the Chicane, and you're here with me, Paris, and my co-host Marium. And we today are going to be talking about the Hungarian Grand Prix that took place this weekend in Budapest, in Hungary. It was an absolutely wild ride from start to finish, and we have tons to get through. But before we get started on that, Mariam, how are you feeling after what was an amazing weekend at Silverstone a couple of weeks ago?
How do you even put that into words? Like, so Silverstone, obviously, incredible. If you haven't watched our vlog yet, go and check it out. It only gives you a snippet of the amazing weekend that we had. Um, but the race itself, aside from obviously that first lap incident that happened at Silverstone, like the race itself was pretty steady. However, Hungary, like, what the hell? I think when you've got something like what happened in Hungary and you've got the title contenders at the back trying to come forward, that's what makes it exciting, because it's like, will they, won't they, throughout
Yeah,
the whole race. Um, yeah, Hungary was just another level. Do you think it's the best
definitely.
race we've had this season?
I'm gonna put it out there. I feel like it was definitely for me. My previous favorite race was like Baku because of just the craziness that happened there. Clearly, I like crazy. Um, so I feel like this race hit home. Like I was on the edge of my seat. My eyes did not leave the screen the entire time. I was not having a little nap, even as much as I was on my phone. It was because I was live tweeting. So I was literally eyes glued to the screen. And I just thought it was just the most incredible race because you did not know what was going to happen 1 second to the next. And I think, years past in Formula One, we've had that issue where it's like, it becomes predictable. You know that Hamilton's going to win, or Vettel was going to win, or like Schumacher even was going to win. You knew what was kind of coming. You didn't necessarily know exactly how they were going to get there, but more or less you knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And I think the greatness of this kind of standalone season, and I call it a standalone season because of obviously not having the new regs, but still having some of the parts from the previous year. So I feel like it's its own thing. And I feel like the blessing of having this crazy season is all of the drama that we're getting on and off the track. So after Silverstone, you had the war of words and everything that happened between Christian Horner and Red Bull and Toto Wolff and Mercedes. And then obviously the drivers also kind of wrapped up in that whole shenanigans. So what do you think about like racing incidents? Like, should they be decided during the race, after the race, through kind of appeals and reviews? What do you think about the steward's decision?
I don't know. It's so hard to say, because if you're comparing Silverstone to what's just happened in Hungary, from a fan point of view, I'm gonna say it. I don't know. It's hard because I'm happy with what they decided for Hamilton,
Yeah.
but then obviously everything that's going on with Vettel at the moment and his fuel situation from Hungary yesterday. I don't know. I love Vettel, so I want the stewards to, like, just, I don't know. I honestly, I don't know what to say, because I don't know if it's too much of a tight window for these kind of decisions to be made during the race, or like
Mm.
on that same day. And I like the fact that the teams have 72 hours to decide if they want to like appeal or not. And it it helps. But then also from a fan point of view, again, it's hard when the decision isn't in your favor or it's not what you want. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's
I
hard.
definitely think like the reactions to Silverstone, and I guess probably the reactions what we're going to talk about with Hungary, have been quite emotive from a fan point of view. Like personally, I obviously was not upset. You can see I'm wearing my Mercedes. I'm team Mercedes now. Forget it. F it. I'm team Mercedes. Like,
Yeah.
do you know everything that happens this year? I find myself just really wanting Mercedes to overcome and Mercedes to win. So I'm officially on the Mercedes bandwagon. Okay, I'm a Lewis Hamilton supporter. This race, Hungary, I was even trying to support Bottas until he went out. So I'm officially a Mercedes supporter. Crucify me if you will, whatever. But yeah, even if it hadn't gone in Lewis's favor, like more so, maybe he was disqualified or whatever, I feel like we have to respect the stewards' decisions. Like, we're all sitting on our sofas, we're watching it as an audience, and we have to just respect that, you know, they're there to do a job, and their job is to be unbiased, or as unbiased as possible, and make this decision with the wealth of knowledge that they have. And I think we need to respect that. So then bringing that into Hungary, the winner of yesterday's race was Esteban Ocon, after like what can only be described as an amazing drive by that Alpine driver.
Honestly, like, what even was Hungary? So this was the 35th race in Hungary, I think. The Hungaroring is known for being twisty, tight. Overtaking is so impossible here. Turn one is obviously the best place for overtaking at this track, and I think we've only had like 3 or 4 wet races at this track. So a wet start, obviously, where they've had dry conditions all weekend and then they've got a wet start, made it so difficult. But then it wasn't even a wet start, because as they were driving, the drivers were like, no, it's actually dry. So then they're like changing their tires. It's just, strategy is so important here in Hungary, and yesterday proved that. Because I mean, do you want to talk about the start, or shall I talk about the start? Who's going first?
Okay, so the first start, we're talking about the first start, right? Okay, so everybody lines up, use it on their intermediate tires, because it was raining moments before the actual formation lap. They all had their little marquees out above the cars and everything, and I guess as they go off, Bottas under brakes and shunts the back of Norris's car, who then goes off into Verstappen. Bottas goes off into Perez, and causes a huge pile-up, which could be like a first lap incident. To be honest, I would, if there wasn't all of the craziness that's happening between Mercedes and Red Bull at the moment, I feel like people would have just written that off as a first lap incident, and it would have been like, shit, that sucks for everybody. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But because of all of the tension and everything that, as we've just discussed, happened last time out in Silverstone, everything that's happened between, now it's like Bottas did it on purpose. Toto Wolff sent him out there like to torpedo the Red Bulls. Like it everybody's reaction's a bit insane. Let's be honest. But it did have massive implications for the rest of the race. So safety car comes out, you know, takes everybody back into the pits, like races red flagged, and then they go again.
First of all, let's just comment on the fact that Bottas did take out several people.
He did.
You've got Lando, you've got Perez, Verstappen gets hit, Ricciardo's caught up in it, Stroll also locks up and goes into Leclerc, I think. There's like 7 drivers that are like impacted by this. So they're going around, and then obviously it's the race is red flagged. I think it's like, I can't remember how long it was, like half an hour, 40 minutes maybe, the wait. And then you go back out for I mean, the drivers are driving around for like a formation lap to get into position because they're in the pit lane. But then as they're driving around, they're noticing that the track is actually dry. So Hamilton, who's obviously leading the pack, this is the difficulty that Hamilton had. He would have, okay, at this point, drivers don't have any comms with their team. There is no team radio when you're on the formation lap. So at this point, drivers are driving around and Hamilton can't speak to his team. He can't get any advice from them. So he's having to make the call himself. Fortunately, he didn't quite make the right call. So Hamilton drives around and goes into his grid position, which is pole.
Mm-hmm.
Every other driver behind him has decided we're on the wrong tyres, so they go into the pit lane to change their tyres.
Yeah.
And it's just the weirdest thing because Hamilton literally started the race
by himself. That was hilarious.
It was the weird, like if you've seen just even a picture of it, like there's no cars, it's just Hamilton just there. And
I feel like that has like meme potential for the rest of life.
Definitely.
Like he's just goated by himself, and it's like this is why Hamilton is the way
wins
he is,
the championship, like
by himself.
Honestly. So anyway, at this point, everyone's obviously going in, changing their tires, whatever. The race starts. Hamilton's away by himself. He does lead, I think. He gets into the front whilst everyone, because they can't go out until he's past them anyway. So he's leading. Realized he's on the wrong tires. So then I think it was that lap or a few laps later, he comes in and changes his tires. But because obviously it's so close to the start, he ends up dropping down to P14. P14 is the last position because everyone else behind has DNF'd.
I think the only person that was behind him at the time was like Mazepin. So it might have been like one from the end. But either way, like basically back of the pack.
Yeah, he was right at the back. So then now Hamilton's got Verstappen in front of him, who's had his floor like redone in that time, in the time of the red flag. So
and half of this floor was missing.
Yeah, so Verstappen also had the struggle of like severe damage to his car, which the team needed to fix during this red flag. They did what they could, but Verstappen is obviously set out for quite a difficult race. Anyway, Hamilton's got Verstappen in front of him and the rest of the pack, and he's like, okay, I now need to try and overtake and get to the front on a track that is known for not being easy for overtaking. So
you cannot overtake. I feel like every single time they say this to Hamilton, like didn't they say it at trying to think of the races, I should have checked this, but they said it to him earlier. They said it earlier this year at
it's true though, like Monaco is the hardest track to overtake
every single time they say it to him. He does though.
Yeah, I know, that's just Hamilton for you though, but generally for most drivers the Hungaroring is second after Monaco. Monaco's the hardest, then it's like the Hungaroring is known as like the second Monaco because it's so difficult. So, you know, Hamilton's like, oh shit, I've got to do this really difficult job now. But he doesn't.
But that shows his competency, that shows his skill. Like he shouldn't have to though. Like I feel like as much as I know what you're saying about the comms, but I also did hear from another point of view that because it wasn't the initial formation lap that actually they were allowed to communicate, and they didn't, because they were basing it on the fact that, you know, the track was perceived before, it was perceivably wet. So they did do a calculation. I also heard George Russell mention that the garage for Mercedes was like at the end. So as everybody else was coming out, if, for example, Hamilton went in first, did his pit stop and was allowed to come out, he would have still had to wait for all of the people coming through, which would have put him back in the pits anyway. So maybe they were like calculating, oh, well, if we stay out, then it's better for us. Yeah. There's so many different reasons why they could have, like, between Mercedes and Hamilton, not made that decision to go in. And like, but then at the same time, I feel like Mercedes has not been giving him an easy job of it. Like every single time he has to overcome so many trials and tribulations just to get a podium, just to get like points, to get to first place and stuff. And I feel like every single time he has been kind of like responding to that really well and showing his level of skill this year.
You see, this is the thing. I feel like strategy wise, Mercedes just fluke it. I don't actually think they're good. I think they most of the time actually just fluke it, and it always seems to work out for them. Not always, most of the time seems to work out for them. So, and I do.
Well, it works out for Lewis. Doesn't quite work out for Bottas.
Yeah, no, that's true. But I think yesterday was just another one of those moments where, like, strategy, the calls, they weren't on point, but
Yeah.
Hamilton being Hamilton did what he needed to do
Mhm.
and managed to overtake the whole bloody grid and get to P3 in the end. That's
Yep.
finished. You know, I mean, hats off to him because that is not an easy job. And yeah, I mean, it was just crazy. It was amazing. It was so good. But
So he would have been, I reckon he could have won personally. But he was held up by Alonso for 11 laps, um, doing some beautiful driving between the pair of them, honestly. Like, actually, just the way they were wheel to wheel. And like, I think they touched once, but generally, like, it was super clean. Like, it was just,
yeah,
amazing to watch.
God,
And
clean racing.
clean racing. But also, it was like Alonso almost showing, this is why I'm back in Formula One. Do you know what I mean? Like, everybody wrote me off. Everybody said I'm the old man, especially as well. It was his like 40th birthday this weekend. I think we even wrote him off. Maybe
I
go
have.
watch my first video.
I'm still standing by my decision. I'm not happy that Alonso's in Formula One.
Yeah,
But whatevs.
but he can drive. Like, he can freaking drive. I think my only reservations about that whole thing was actually more to do with his interview afterwards. So there was an interview afterwards which he was giving, I believe, to German TV or possibly Dutch TV. And he basically said that he was holding up Lewis, not just for Esteban, who is obviously his teammate, and you would expect that, they're doing a team race, but he was also holding up Lewis for Max. I didn't like that personally. I feel like that
Why?
is he just was. He said it's important for Max's championship. So I personally don't feel like his drive to be in front of Lewis should have been for Max. I feel like that's wild. Like, I don't understand how, as a driver, you can say, yeah, I'm playing favorites between my all of my enemies, basically. Like, Esteban's your only ally, really. And he's like, yeah, I'm gonna hold up Lewis for Max. What I would I feel like that is a wild statement, and Alonso needs to like catch some shots for that. Seriously.
It's just a bit rude, really.
Yeah,
I mean, you can't say that, but
he did.
I mean,
I think is as well, like, maybe off of the back of their time together at McLaren. I know that they weren't the best like teammates or whatever, but it's like, what? When did Alonso leave McLaren? 2008, I think, something like that. I can't remember when he went back to Ferrari. Like, it was a long time ago, basically, well over 10 years now.
yeah.
So get over it. Get over it. Seriously.
So yeah, Hamilton, impeccable race. I mean, couldn't be happier for him, to be honest. He did so well. Esteban Ocon, he took advantage of the situation. So with Ocon, it was the case of him, because of what had happened and everyone being knocked out, so many people who were at the back found themselves being at the front on the restart. And Ocon was running P2 behind Hamilton. So then when Hamilton pitted, Ocon ended up taking the lead and managed to maintain it. So, I have always been an Ocon stan, and I was gutted for that. I think it was just the year that he was out of F1, and I hated it because Ocon's story is one that I think is the type that deserves to be in Formula One. He comes from a nothing background in comparison to all the other drivers, a bit like Lewis, and really had to work for his seat in F1. And I was gutted when he wasn't given like an extension on his contract, but now that he's back, and when it was announced that he was coming back, I was so happy. And I think yesterday's race, like, he really deserved that. Like, he did really well to maintain his pace and just drive, basically.
Yeah.
He didn't really have much competition. Like, there were times when it looked like Vettel might get close, and then he didn't. So he didn't have much to fend off, but even so, like, he drove well. So happy for Ocon.
I definitely thought Vettel was going to catch up to him, and there was like a moment when he pitted, and I was like, maybe he's going to undercut him, and it will be. I genuinely thought it was going to be a Vettel Ocon 1-2. So the fact that that didn't happen is quite amazing. I think he maintained his cool as well. Like that's quite a lot of pressure to think like that's your first. I think that's probably like his first time even leading a Grand Prix for that many laps. You know what I mean? Like that's a lot of pressure to be in that position and to not lose your cool when you've got someone who is as good as Sebastian Vettel behind you. So full-time world champion, and the fact that he managed to maintain that to the end of the Grand Prix is a testament to him, definitely.
Yeah.
And Alonso obviously helping him out. But do you want to like pine over Vettel for a few moments, or do you want to save that to the end?
Let's say that till the end.
Okay. Sainz, who ended up coming in fourth but in third. Sainz was there the whole race as well. Like he obviously, most people kind of, when you look at Ferrari, I think we spoke about this a couple of videos ago. When you think about Ferrari, you tend to think about Leclerc being like the main driver. Obviously, Leclerc was taken out in the opening lap of the race. So Sainz being up there and once again proving how much of an underrated driver he is. Even he was kind of like just having a really, really good race himself. So I feel like Sainz did the thing for Ferrari. I mean, I feel like if you're a Ferrari fan, this race would be really proud.
I am proud. I mean, I'm gutted because it wasn't like double points and it wasn't like Leclerc wasn't even in the race.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm happy for the team. Happy for Sainz as well because, like you say, he is definitely underrated. So
yeah. And he started in like 15th or something, didn't he? Because he didn't qualify too well, and he had some issues with his gearbox. I think even was power unit over the qualifying weekend. So the fact that he kind of ended in third is almost a fairy tale weekend for him.
Fourth and then third. Yeah, good for him. I think we can kind of brush over everyone else. Gasly, unfortunately, started fifth, finished sixth. Whatever. Let's talk about Williams.
Okay, go for it. Take it away. What do you want to say about Williams?
So, Williams, I mean, how long have we been waiting for Russell to bloody finish in the points? Like, this man, like, actually, do you know what's funny? He's qualified out of Q1 this entire season. This weekend was the first weekend, I think, that he didn't go to Q2. And yet it turned out to be an amazing weekend for the team. I mean, like I said before, because of the back markers being, at an advantage and being able to move forward, Latifi and Russell found themselves driving within the points, managed to maintain that throughout, and even, I think, beat a McLaren to finish in the points. And Latifi surprisingly outperformed Russell. He came home 8th and then Russell came home 9th.
Yep. And there was a point where Latifi was like, I think 3rd.
Really?
4th? Yeah, there was a point like after Hamilton pitted, when he was like changing his tires to slicks, there was that weird moment where like Russell had accidentally overtaken everybody in the and everyone was kind of shuffled in a really, really jarring order. Like if you took a screenshot at that moment, you would have been like, what? This is the weirdest order ever. And then like Latifi was up there and then obviously dropped back. But just the fact that they were able to kind of compete for Williams must be like such a good feeling for them, regardless of the circumstances. You can't take it away from them. Like it's points. They managed to maintain it. They could have been at the back with the Haas, like they weren't. Do you know what I mean? So points where you can get them, take it. And then obviously for a weekend where Bottas has not performed so well, and then Russell obviously has points, eyes then once again turn to like Mercedes and contract negotiations over summer. Mercedes being like one of the teams that has a seat available because they've only signed Lewis. We all know what's happening there, but I feel like yesterday's race could have made Toto's decision a little bit more difficult.
Difficult or easy?
Yeah, you've got one driver who's knocked out half of the grid, and then you've got another driver
That would
who's
have made
managed
it
to.
easier.
Oh well, easier possibly in the sense of if he was already leaning towards Russell, but more difficult if he was actually leaning towards Bottas, and now he's possibly not considering Bottas.
Yeah, good point.
I personally would think that you would give a little bit of loyalty as team principal, and being the kind of guy that Toto Wolff is, you would give a little bit of loyalty to your current driver. So personally as well, if I was in Toto's position, I would keep Bottas anyway, just in general.
Well, we all know if it was Red Bull, Russell would be the one to have that seat. But yeah, it's going to be a bit of a difficult a decision, I think. But yeah, summer break now, so I guess we'll just wait and see. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I think the last major point to touch upon for this weekend is Sebastian Vettel and everything that happened there. And we won't talk about how upset I am, but we will talk about what happened. So Vettel found himself running in P2 yesterday, obviously thanks to the restart and blah blah blah. And yeah, like Paris said earlier, we thought that there was a point where Vettel might actually take P1 and actually lead the race, but unfortunately he didn't quite have the pace. However, he did manage to stay in his position, which was P2, and finish the race second. But then, as he was making his way over to Parc Ferme, Vettel's car stopped, but so did a few others. So did, I think, maybe Latifi as well. Ocon's, I think, stopped because people ran out of fuel. Obviously, they've been going for ages. So, yeah, you go. There's podium celebrations. Aston Martin are celebrating P2. And then, you've got the FIA fuel check after. And unfortunately, they couldn't extract enough fuel from Vettel's car. So now Sebastian Vettel has been disqualified and lost his position and lost the points. And it's just a bit annoying because it's...
Yeah. I think it's just a shame.
Yeah, I mean,
it's just a shame.
Goes back to your question about stewards and blah, blah, blah. And I don't know. It's just, do I think the rules are stupid for this? Like, do I think the FIA should change their regulations? I don't know, but it's hard to say because I think I'm biased because it's Vettel. But if someone like, let's say,
Verstappen.
Yeah, Verstappen, I'd be like, nah, whatever. Like, it is what it is. Rules are rules.
I must admit, I'm kind of rules are rules, but it's a shame. It's a terrible, terrible shame. Like I wasn't mad. I wasn't mad seeing Vettel up there celebrating. I've softened towards him because I genuinely think he's a really good guy. I feel like there was one Aston Martin video where he like smacked his cheeks and he just looked so cute, and I was like, yeah, all right, you're a good person. I can't take that away from you. But no, he definitely deserved it. Like obviously he drove impeccably as well. And it is just a case of, this is a technical directive. You cannot just make an exception for one person for one race, because you'd be doing that for every single different version of whatever the reasoning could be. Like for example, right now they're so hot on tire pressures, and then what do you say, like one time where someone like say Russell got a podium and you'd be like, oh, but it's Russell and he's not had a podium in so long and he deserves it. Do you say, okay, well, forget about his tire pressures, don't worry about it? Like I feel like this is a different scenario from a racing incident where it can be a bit more of a subjective opinion. This is something that's very cut and dry. It's a very technical aspect of it. They haven't been able, for whatever reason, to extract that fuel. And in the books, that means that there should be a disqualification. So it's a shame. And but as well, I think because of the fact that it's a technical thing, it doesn't take away from how amazing we all felt seeing Ocon and Vettel and Lewis on the podium.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think, yeah, rules are rules. Unfortunately, it is what it is. Aston Martin, I think, are yet to decide if they're going to appeal. I'm not too sure about that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, it's a huge shame because Vettel, that would have been a second P2 this season, second podium for Aston Martin in 61 years. In fact, no, they didn't have any podiums when they were here originally, so they're back 61 years later, and this would have been their second podium, but unfortunately didn't quite happen. But you know, we've still got half the season to go, so I guess we'll just wait and see what happens. But yeah, I mean, yeah.
Okay, so let's wrap it up. Winner of the day?
Ocon, obviously. Ocon. Yeah.
I would have said Alonso just for that beautiful defending. Like, dude made his ass fat. Dude was like, my ass is wide and Lewis is not getting past.
Yeah.
I would have 100% said Alonso, but it was just that little comment afterwards that made me be like, raw, you're actually a bit wilding a little bit. So I'm gonna say Ocon too, because I feel like, you know, it was just a really well-deserved podium. Loser of the day.
Well, aside from Bottas, Lando, Leclerc, Perez, and whoever else didn't finish the race, obviously I'm going to have to say Vettel. Like, it's just a huge shame what happened to him. Yeah, I'm gutted for him, to be honest. So yeah, my man Seb.
Okay, I'm going to say Verstappen, because I feel like everything Vettel's done, like on and off the track that weekend, has outshone any disqualification that he could get. So I don't feel like he's lost in any way, shape, or form, other than a few points that wouldn't have made that much of a difference to Aston Martin anyway.
They dropped down in the constructors.
Ferrari and McLaren are doing their whole thing. Aston, they are where they are. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a couple of different hours of wind tunnel time or whatever it is next year that they get for being in whatever position. It's inconsequential. They're not out there for the championships. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I'm going to say Verstappen, actually, because having to go through the whole race with his barge board, his side floor damaged the way it was, not being able to recoup any of his positions, really. Like, I think he got a little bit further up, had some nice little battle with Schumacher, but overall I feel like his knock and what that must be doing to his mentality to now be behind in the championship, that's going to be pretty hard.
Good. Yeah, okay. Cool. So now we've got 3 weeks without racing, and then we're back in Belgium.
What are you going to do?
Live my life.
Oh, I'm going to be depressed. I'll be like staring at different pictures of cars.
I mean, my life is still Formula One, don't forget. So I've still got loads of action going on. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I've just got things to be doing, people's birthdays. I'm climbing Mount Snowdon next weekend, apparently.
Oh, that's shit.
Interesting.
Get yours, girl.
Yeah, I'm just gonna see a few friends and just live until Belgium. What are you gonna do?
I'm going to curl up into a ball in my bed and cry because there's no Formula One every weekend. I'm joking. I don't know. I'm going to just enjoy life as well. I'm just going to have some fun. Maybe we will post. We have a few videos waiting in the wings, so maybe we'll post a couple of those. So you might still see our face over the next few weeks. Look out for it. In the meantime, Mariam, what does everybody need to do?
Everyone needs to get up, open up their phones, open up Instagram, open up Twitter, open up YouTube, follow us, like, subscribe, comment, share, all of it, as you know, as you always do, as we always say. Go and engage with us, guys. Tell us what you think. Tell us what you thought of this race. Tell us what you think of the season so far. Tell us what you think is going to happen in the rest of the season. Who's going to win? Hamilton or Verstappen? We'll find out. But yeah, catch you next time.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thank you.